Found my sister living in my bed after returning early from vacation. 3 months later, half my family has criminal records. Hi everyone. Today's story will blow your mind, but really quick, if you enjoy this content, hit that subscribe button. Channel's been a bit quiet lately, and your support keeps it all going. Let's jump in. Original post. I, 29M, just experienced something so violating that I'm still shaking with rage as I type this. I need to share this somewhere because I feel like I'm going insane, and my entire family is acting like I'm the villain here. I work as a software engineer for a tech company in Seattle. After 5 years of grinding and saving, I finally bought my own apartment last year. A nice 2-bedroom place in Capitol Hill. It's nothing fancy, but it's mine. I worked my ass off for it, took on extra freelance projects, lived on ramen for months to save for the down payment. This place represents everything I've achieved on my own, without any help from my family. For context, my parents, James, 55M, and Patricia, 53F, have always played favorites with my younger sister Emily, 27F. Growing up, Emily could do no wrong. She crashed 3 cars before turning 21. Accidents happen. She dropped out of college twice. She's finding herself. She's been fired from every job she's ever had. Those places didn't appreciate her creativity. Meanwhile, I had to work part-time through high school and college, pay for my own education, and never received a dime of help after turning 18. 2 weeks ago, I left for what was supposed to be a 10-day work conference in San Francisco, followed by a few days of vacation. The conference was important, potential promotion material, and I'd been preparing for months. I made sure everything in my apartment was secured, set up my security cameras, I have a basic system for package thieves, and gave my building manager, Robert, a heads up that I'd be gone. The conference went well, but on day 7, I got food poisoning from some sketchy food truck. Spent 2 days in my hotel room, absolutely miserable. By day 9, I just wanted to go home. I canceled my vacation plans, changed my flight, and headed back to Seattle a full 5 days early. I got home around 11 p.m., exhausted and still feeling rough. I noticed something odd immediately. The hallway smelled different, like someone else's perfume. But I figured maybe my neighbor had someone over. Then I got to my door. My key turned in the lock, but it felt different, looser somehow. I pushed the door open and immediately knew something was wrong. The apartment smelled wrong. Not bad, just not mine. There were shoes by the door that weren't mine. A jacket on my coat rack that I'd never seen before. My heart started pounding. Someone had broken into my apartment. I pulled out my phone, ready to call 911, and crept toward the living room. The TV was on, my TV, playing some reality show I'd never watch. There were wine bottles on my coffee table. Makeup scattered across my dining table. Shopping bags everywhere. Someone wasn't just robbing me. Someone was living in my apartment. The rage that filled me was indescribable. I stepped into the living room and shouted, "Who the fuck is in my apartment?" A scream came from my bedroom. My bedroom. Someone was in my bed. Emily came running out in pajamas, looking shocked. "Michael, you're back early." The casualness of her response broke something in me. "What the fuck are you doing in my apartment?" She actually had the audacity to look confused. "Mom said you gave me permission to stay here while you were gone. She gave me the spare key." I need to pause here to explain something. I never gave my parents a spare key. After the boundaries they've crossed over the years, I made a point of not giving them access to my space. The only spare key was in a lockbox hidden in the building's utility room, which only Robert and I knew about. I never gave Mom a key, and I sure as hell never gave you permission to be here. Get out. Now. Emily rolled her eyes. Rolled her eyes. "Don't be so dramatic, Michael. I needed a place to stay, and you weren't using it. Mom said you wouldn't mind." That's when I noticed the extent of it. My bedroom door was open. I could see her clothes in my closet. Her suitcases in my room. She hadn't just crashed here for a night, she had moved in. "You have 30 seconds to get out before I call the police." She laughed. Actually laughed. "You wouldn't call the cops on your own sister." I dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? "There's an intruder in my apartment. I just returned from a trip and found someone has broken in and is living here." Emily's face went white. "Michael, stop. I'm your sister. Please send officers to address. The intruder is refusing to leave." "Michael, Mom gave me permission." I hung up and looked at her. "You have until the cops get here to gather what you can carry and get out." She started crying, begging, saying I was overreacting, that family helps family. She called our parents, putting them on speaker. My mother's voice filled the room. Michael, stop this nonsense right now. Your sister needed help, and we knew you'd be selfish about it, so we gave her the key. Family helps family. Where did you get a key, Patricia? I used her first name deliberately. From the lockbox in the utility room. Robert mentioned it months ago when we stopped by. My blood ran cold. They'd been planning this. They'd manipulated information out of Robert and had been waiting for an opportunity. The police arrived 15 minutes later, the longest 15 minutes of my life. Emily was still there, surrounded by her belongings, alternating between crying and screaming at me. 2 officers, Johnson and Lopez, entered after I showed them my ID and lease. Sir, can you explain the situation? I showed them my flight confirmation, proving I'd just returned. Showed them my lease, proving this was my apartment. Showed them my phone, proving I'd never given permission for anyone to stay here. Then I showed them the security footage from my living room camera. Emily entering with multiple suitcases 4 days ago, clearly moving in. Emily tried to explain that she was family, that our parents had given her the key, that this was all a misunderstanding. Officer Johnson asked the crucial question, "Ma'am, are you on the lease?" "No, but dash. Did the leaseholder give you explicit permission to be here?" His parents said dash. The parents who are not on the lease. Emily fell silent. They arrested her for criminal trespass and breaking and entering. As they led her out in handcuffs, she screamed that I was destroying our family, that I'd regret this, that I was a monster. I spent the rest of the night documenting everything. Every item of hers, every change to my apartment, every piece of evidence. She'd eaten my food, used my bathroom products, slept in my bed. She'd even rearranged my furniture. The violation I felt was beyond words. My phone exploded with calls and texts from family members. My parents, aunts, uncles, cousins. Everyone had something to say about how I'd overreacted and destroyed family bonds, and was selfish and cruel. Not one person asked if I was okay. Not one person acknowledged that what happened to me was wrong. I'm sitting here at 4 a.m., in an apartment that doesn't feel like mine anymore, wondering if I did the right thing. But then I remember, I worked for this. I earned this. This is mine. And they tried to take it from me, just like they've taken everything else my whole life. Tomorrow, I'm changing every lock, getting a new security system, and looking into restraining orders. I'm done with all of them. Update 1, 3 days later. I wanted to thank everyone for the support on my original post. Your comments helped me realize I wasn't crazy and that what my family did was absolutely insane. Here's what's happened since. First, the criminal charges. Emily was formally charged with criminal trespass in the first degree and breaking and entering. Her public defender tried to argue that she had good faith belief that she had permission, but the prosecutor isn't buying it. Why? Because I found more evidence. Remember those security cameras I mentioned? I went through all the footage. Emily didn't just move in while I was gone. She and my parents had been in my apartment the day I left. They waited maybe 3 hours after I'd gone to the airport. The footage shows all 3 of them entering, my parents showing Emily around like they were giving her a tour. They knew exactly what they were doing. But here's the kicker, Emily had posted on social media about her new apartment. Multiple posts. Pictures of my place, her stuff moved in, even a apartment warming party she was planning for next week. She'd invited people to my apartment for a party. She'd given people my address. The prosecutor loves this evidence because it shows intent to permanently deprive me of my property. My parents, James and Patricia, have escalated beyond belief. They showed up at my workplace yesterday. Security had to escort them out when they wouldn't leave. They told my boss, David, that I was having a mental breakdown and needed help. Fortunately, David knows me well and immediately called me. I explained the situation, and he's been incredibly supportive. He even gave me a few days off to handle everything and connected me with the company's legal services. They've also been calling my landlord, trying to convince him that they should be added to the lease, for my safety. My landlord, thank God, told them to pound sand and forwarded me all their communications. Turns out they've been calling him for months, asking questions about my lease, trying to find out when it's up for renewal, even asking if there are other units available in the building. The landlord now thinks they were trying to find ways to either take over my lease or move into my building. The family harassment has gotten worse. I've received over 200 messages from various family members. My cousin Jennifer called me a sociopath. My Aunt Linda said I'm dead to the family. My Uncle Richard sent me a long email about how blood is thicker than water, and how I'll die alone and regretful. The funny thing, none of these people have spoken to me in years. They only pop up when Emily needs something. But here's where it gets really interesting. My sister's friend, Ashley, reached out to me privately. She told me this isn't the first time Emily's done something like this. Apparently, 2 years ago, Emily house sat for their mutual friend Melissa and refused to leave when Melissa came back from vacation. Melissa had to threaten legal action to get Emily out. Ashley also told me that Emily had been bragging about finally getting a nice place in Capitol Hill, and how her tech bro brother owes her anyway. Speaking of Emily, she's been released on bail. My parents paid it, of course. She's been ordered to stay away from me and my apartment, but she's been posting constantly on social media about how she's the victim of an abusive brother and how she's homeless because of family cruelty. She started a GoFundMe claiming I made her homeless and asking for money for a new apartment. I reported it with evidence of the criminal charges, and it got taken down. I've hired a lawyer, Christopher Manning. He's expensive, but he's worth it. We're not just dealing with the criminal case, we're going after my parents civilly. Conspiracy to commit trespass, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and a few other charges Christopher thinks will stick. He was particularly interested in the fact that they admitted to getting the key from information they'd manipulated out of Robert months ago. That shows long-term planning and intent. We're also getting restraining orders against all three of them. Christopher says with the evidence we have, the footage, the social media posts, the harassment, the workplace incident, it should be a slam dunk. I've completely renovated my security. New locks, the kind that can't be picked, new security system with cameras that upload directly to the cloud, and I've even installed a smart doorbell that alerts my phone whenever someone approaches. The lockbox is gone. Robert felt terrible about inadvertently giving them information and has banned my parents from the building entirely. The violation, I feel, hasn't gone away. I still can't sleep in my bedroom. I've been on the couch. The thought of Emily in my bed, going through my things, living in my space, it makes me physically ill. I'm looking into therapy because I know this isn't healthy, but right now, I'm just angry. My phone rings constantly with family members trying to guilt me. I've blocked most of them, but they keep finding ways to contact me. Someone even reached out to my ex-girlfriend, Sarah, trying to get her to convince me to drop the charges. Sarah, bless her, told them to fuck off and warned me about it. The worst part? My mom sent me an invoice. An invoice. For all the times they helped me as a child. Apparently, I owe them $47,000 for raising me, which is why it's only fair that Emily gets to use my apartment. Christopher actually laughed when I showed him and said to save it for the civil case. I know this isn't over. Emily's court date is in 2 weeks, and Christopher warned me that family situations like this tend to escalate before they get better. But I'm done being the family doormat. I'm done sacrificing my peace and my property for people who see me as nothing more than a resource to exploit. Update 2, 2 weeks later. Emily's court date was yesterday, and I have so much to update. First, let me address something from the comments on my last update. Yes, I've started therapy. My therapist, Dr. Susan Martinez, specializes in family trauma and has been incredibly helpful. She said something that stuck with me: your family has been stealing from you your whole life. They just finally did it in a way that the law recognizes. That hit hard. Now, the court date. Emily showed up with our parents and a lawyer they'd hired, not the public defender. This lawyer, Thomas Richardson, apparently specializes in family disputes, and came out swinging with a motion to dismiss all charges based on familial implied consent. The judge, thank God, wasn't having it. Judge Barbara Chen asked one simple question: "Counselor, is your client on the lease?" "No, Your Honor, but dash. Is there any written communication showing the leaseholder gave permission?" "No, Your Honor, but family relationships create certain implicit dash. They do not create implicit permission to break into someone's home, Counselor." Emily tried to play the victim, complete with tears and everything. She claimed she was temporarily homeless, and that I was abandoning family in their time of need. The prosecutor, Jennifer Williams, then presented the evidence. The security footage, the social media posts, Emily's history, yes, they found out about the Melissa incident, and my evidence showing I was out of town and had never given permission. The judge's response was perfect. "Ms. Emily, being related to someone does not give you the right to their property. Your brother's success does not entitle you to its benefits. What you did was criminal, regardless of your relationship." Emily pled no contest to criminal trespass. The B&E charge was dropped as part of the plea. She got 6 months probation, 100 hours of community service, and has a criminal record. A criminal record. My sister now has a criminal record because she felt entitled to my apartment. The courtroom explosion from my parents was something to behold. James started shouting about family betrayal and had to be removed by bailiffs. Patricia screamed that I was dead to her and that I'd regret this when I'm old and alone. They were both given warnings about courtroom disruption. But here's where it gets really interesting. Remember how I mentioned hiring Christopher for a civil case? Well, we filed that lawsuit last week, and my parents were served papers at the courthouse. The look on their faces when they realized I was suing them for $150,000 in damages was priceless. Christopher included everything: conspiracy to commit trespass, intentional infliction of emotional distress, harassment, defamation, for telling my employer I was having a mental breakdown, and a few other charges. My mother actually fainted. EMTs had to be called. After court, Emily tried to approach me in the parking lot, violating the restraining order that had just been put in place. I immediately called the police, and she was arrested again. She spent the night in jail and now has a violation on her brand new probation. Her lawyer is trying to argue it was a misunderstanding about when the order went into effect, but the judge made it crystal clear in the courtroom that it was effective immediately. The family harassment has reached insane levels. They've created a Facebook group called Justice for Emily, where they're sharing my personal information, my address, my workplace, everything. I've reported it to Facebook and the police, and Christopher is adding it to our civil suit. My cousin Kevin even posted suggesting people should visit me to talk sense into me. That's been forwarded to the police as a potential threat. But not everyone in the family is against me. My dad's brother, Uncle Anthony, reached out privately to support me. He told me he's been watching my parents enable Emily for years and was proud of me for standing up for myself. He also shared that this isn't the first time they've pulled something like this. Apparently, they did something similar to my grandmother's house when she was in the hospital. They moved Emily in, claiming Grandma had agreed to it. Grandma had to threaten legal action to get her out. Anthony is willing to testify if needed. Work has been incredibly supportive. My company actually offered me the option to relocate to our Austin office if I want a fresh start. I'm considering it. David, my boss, has also implemented new security measures after my parents' visit, and has made it clear that I have the company's full support. I've completely cut contact with most of my family. I've had to change my phone number, delete most of my social media, and even change my daily routines because they've been showing up at places I frequent. My gym had to ban Patricia after she caused a scene there, screaming at me in front of everyone about abandoning family. The apartment still doesn't feel like mine. I've deep cleaned everything, even replaced my mattress and bedding, but the violation lingers. Dr. Martinez says this is normal and that it'll take time to reclaim my space. I'm actually considering moving once the lease is up, just for a fresh start. Emily, from what I hear through Anthony, is spinning this as me being mentally ill and vindictive. She's telling everyone that she was just staying for a few days, and that I overreacted because of jealousy. The fact that she had moved in completely, changed my apartment around, and was planning a party there apparently doesn't factor into her version of events. The civil lawsuit is moving forward. Christopher is confident, especially with the new evidence of the Facebook harassment and the pattern of behavior with Grandma. My parents have hired their own lawyer and are countersuing for destruction of family unity and emotional damages. Christopher laughed when he saw their filing and said it'll be thrown out immediately. I've had to install cameras outside my apartment door after finding scratches on it. Someone tried to key into my apartment again. The police think it was Emily or my parents, but without proof, they can't do anything except add it to the report. Some people have asked why I'm going so hard against my family. The truth is, this isn't about the apartment anymore. It's about 29 years of being treated like a resource instead of a person. 29 years of watching them enable Emily while I worked my ass off. 29 years of being told that my success means I owe them something. I'm done. Final update, 3 months later. I wasn't going to update again, but so much has happened that I felt I owed the people who've been following this story some closure. First, the big news. I won the civil lawsuit. My parents have to pay me $75,000 in damages plus my legal fees. The judge called their behavior a shocking violation of trust and criminal conspiracy. They have 60 days to pay, or we can start asset seizure. Their house, which they've owned for 15 years, might have to be sold. I didn't want it to come to this, but they forced my hand. Emily is in jail. Remember how she violated the restraining order immediately after court? Well, she did it again. And again. She showed up at my workplace with a bat, screaming that she was going to make me pay. Security tackled her, and she was arrested for attempted assault, violation of a restraining order, and probation violation. She's serving 18 months. 18 months in jail because she couldn't accept that she wasn't entitled to my apartment. The family explosion has been nuclear. The Justice for Emily Facebook group turned into a legal nightmare for them when members started making actual threats against me. The FBI got involved. Yes, the FBI, because some of the threats crossed state lines. 3 cousins are facing federal charges for conspiracy to commit assault. My Aunt Linda was arrested for trying to break into my apartment. She was caught on my new cameras. The family is literally destroying itself over this. My parents have filed for bankruptcy. Between the lawsuit, Emily's legal fees, and their own lawyer costs, they're ruined. They've also been criminally charged with conspiracy to commit trespass after Anthony testified about the pattern of behavior with Grandma's house. They're likely looking at probation and fines. But here's the twist that no one saw coming. Emily wasn't just staying in my apartment. She had used my personal information to apply for credit cards. 5 credit cards with a total of $32,000 in debt. She'd been intercepting the mail while living there, which is why I hadn't noticed. This is now a federal crime: mail fraud, identity theft, and wire fraud. She's looking at serious federal charges on top of her state sentence. I found out when I applied for a car loan and got denied. My credit score had dropped 200 points. Christopher connected me with a specialist lawyer, and we're dealing with it, but it's been a nightmare. The federal prosecutor says this takes her from entitled family member to career criminal. The universe has a sense of humor, though. Remember I mentioned possibly relocating to Austin? I did it. My company not only transferred me but gave me a promotion and a raise to help with the transition during a difficult time. I'm now a senior software engineer making 40% more than I was in Seattle. I sold my Seattle apartment. Even after everything, it sold for $50,000 more than I paid for it. Seattle's market is insane. I used the money to buy a beautiful house in Austin, with a state-of-the-art security system and, yes, biometric locks. No keys to copy, no lockboxes to find. You need my literal fingerprint to enter. The extended family has completely imploded. It's turned into camps, those who support me, about 20%, and those who support Emily/my parents, the rest. The family reunion this year was cancelled because of the situation. My grandmother, who I hadn't spoken to in years because my parents controlled her access to the family, reached out. She's 84, sharp as a tack, and absolutely furious with my parents. She's written them out of her will and has asked me to help her get a restraining order against them. Turns out, the incident Anthony mentioned was worse than I thought. They'd actually tried to get power of attorney over her. I've been in therapy consistently, and Dr. Martinez has helped me understand that I was raised in an abusive household. Just because it wasn't physical doesn't mean it wasn't abuse. The favoritism, the gaslighting, the constant taking, all abuse. She's also helped me understand that going no contact isn't cruel, it's self-preservation. Patricia sent me a letter last week, through her lawyer, respecting the restraining order. It was 10 pages of manipulation, guilt-tripping, and rewriting history. According to her, I was always jealous of Emily, and couldn't handle sharing. The woman who gave a criminal the keys to my apartment is accusing me of not sharing. Christopher kept it for our records in case they try anything else. James had a heart attack last month. Part of me felt guilty, but Dr. Martinez reminded me that his health is not my responsibility, and the stress is entirely due to consequences of his own actions. He's recovering, but I heard through Anthony that he blames me for everything. He can't accept that giving Emily the key was wrong. In his mind, family helps family, and I'm the villain for not playing along. The friends who reached out initially have been amazing. Ashley, who first told me about Emily's pattern, has become a good friend. She says Emily has been writing her from jail, playing the victim, saying I set her up, and that she was just trying to survive. Ashley sent me the letters. They're unhinged. Emily genuinely believes she did nothing wrong and that I'm the criminal for calling the police. I've also started dating someone here in Austin. Her name is Melissa, not the same one from the story, and she's wonderful. I was honest about my family situation from the start, and she's been incredibly supportive. She's also a lawyer, corporate law, not criminal, and she jokes that she's never seen such a clear-cut case of fuck around and find out in her life. My life in Austin is everything Seattle wasn't. I have peace. I have a home that's truly mine. I have a job that values me. I have friends who respect me. And I have absolutely zero contact with toxic family members who see me as nothing more than a resource to exploit. To those who said I went too far, Emily is in federal prison for identity theft. My parents are bankrupt criminals. The extended family is destroying itself. All because they couldn't accept that my apartment is my apartment. I didn't go too far. I finally went far enough. To those who supported me, thank you. Your comments helped me realize I wasn't crazy, wasn't cruel, wasn't overreacting. I was just finally standing up for myself. I'm not going to update again unless something major happens. I'm ready to move on with my life. My new life. My peaceful, family-free life. And to anyone dealing with similar family situations, you don't owe anyone access to your success. You don't owe anyone your space. You don't owe anyone your peace. Family doesn't mean doormat. Sometimes, the best thing you can do for yourself is to close the door and change the locks. Especially if you upgrade to biometric ones. Editor's note. This has been one of the wildest family drama stories I've ever witnessed. From a simple case of trespassing to federal crimes, bankruptcy, and family-wide warfare. It's a reminder that sometimes, toxic people will escalate beyond all reasonable expectations when you finally stand up to them. Stay strong, Michael. You did the right thing.